All right, all right, all right. We are here once again. JV wins. The boy Dogon SS. Another edition of the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. We had a wonderful week on the channel this past week. Apparently, a lot of people have opinions on D1 having a problem with Benny the Butcher being asked to name his top 5 favorite Coke rappers. So we got a lot of feedback from that topic, a lot of different varying points of view, which is the point of this entire thing. So shouts out to everybody who has decided to hit that subscribe button and join us as we continue to crank out this logical content. We, of course, most certainly appreciate you for it, man. We love making these videos and discussing these topics. So thank you for joining us for the ride. And for anyone else who happens to catch wind of what we like to do over here in our little corner of the internet, go ahead and do your boys a big old solid. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think about the commentary in this or any other video. Now, with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get right into it. We are going to start things off talking about comments that Fat Joe made with respect to his feelings on Young Thug's RICO case. Now, Fat Joe clearly has a problem with the fact that lyrics from Young Thug's music are being used by the prosecution in an attempt to indicate him on charges of guilt for his role in this whole YSL thing. Fat Joe does not believe that rap lyrics should be used as evidence because in his estimation, they are false. They're not true. They're lies. So Fat Joe made an appearance on the new CNN show with Charles Barkley and Gayle King. I believe the name of the show is called King Charles or something to that effect. That, of course, is not the point of this. That is less relevant than what Fat Joe had to say, of course. So I'm going to play 2 snippets from this interview because I think that these 2 snippets that we are going to play are going to encapsulate the essence of what it is that we are going to get at with Fat Joe's comments. So here we go. This is the first of 2 snippets. Fat Joe does not like the fact that Young Thug's lyrics are being used against him in court. And here is his explanation as to why.
So we want to start with you because you've been behind the push to stop this kind of prosecution. What's your reaction when you see that he's on trial, accused, and that his lyrics can now be used against him in this trial?
That's horrible. It's a travesty. I've been rapping professionally for 30 years. I've lied in almost 95% of my songs. I'm being lied. Like,
how? What do you mean?
Go. I write like I feel that day. I'm just being creative. You know, you could probably you couldn't build the jail high enough for that on songs, which are all untrue. What I am, a family man, the person who gives back to my community all the time, open businesses in my community. So the music would never amount to the actual person, Joseph Cartagena. So what's even more horrible is that the district attorneys, they know those lyrics ain't real. They know that's creativity. But if it helps their case, they'll use it to put these guys in jail. And here we're having a fun show about it and discussion. But there really is 6 defendants in Atlanta who might spend the rest of their life in jail for something that's totally not true.
Yeah, you're saying this is...
Okay, so that's the first one. And then we're going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit to the second one. So here we go.
Scorsese should be in jail for 10 million years. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor. He should be in jail for 20,000 years. If we're going to take everything that's a fantasy...
Why should Arnold be in jail?
Because this guy killed 10,000 people in movies. So it's like, if we saying, I'm telling you, I lied for 20, 30 years of my life on music, just being creative and telling stories. How could you be charged for your imagination?
But one of the things the prosecutors say, too, Joe and Laura, help me with this. They say the things that he rapped about have actually happened. You know, that's one of the arguments.
You know, if you're a gangster rapper, whatever you rapping about happens in every inner city, and if you can make it close enough, then you could use that to your advantage. The truth is, if you really want to put these gentlemen in jail and they're really criminals, use real evidence, use real facts.
But there's...
All right, so that's pretty much the gist of it. So obviously there's the conversation about where do you draw the line between art and evidence, and Fat Joe is arguing that rap lyrics aren't even true. This is art. My lyrics are imagination. So on and so forth. So very interesting because we often talk about the dichotomy between reality and this music stuff when it comes to how people glean the music and how that can influence behavior. So that just is a way for me to sort of preface our commentary on this topic by saying that we have touched on this type of thing in various videos in the past on this channel. Go ahead and check out some of the older uploads if you want. This is somewhat in our wheelhouse in terms of subject matter. But what did you make of what Fat Joe had to say there about lyrics being lies and how directors and other people in art should be held to the same standard because they're essentially doing the same thing?
Well, I'll say first, my initial reaction was I was still shocked. I know Fat Joe lies. I know everybody from that generation lied, but I would, if somebody had asked me a question, I would have said 80 to 90%. And for him to say 95, I was just floored in so many ways. The amount of conviction that he said it with also caught me by surprise. So I was, stunned a little bit because I felt like there was still some aspects of which he was talking about certain things that, had validity to it. 95% is a high number. But I already know that people like Fat Joe, people especially from that generation, did a lot of embellishment, did a lot of fabrications. I know for sure they weren't on a boat in Colombia talking to Poppy. I knew they weren't doing that. So, but that I baked that into my 80%. 95% seems pretty high. And then my second thought about all of this, went a little galaxy brain. I feel as though what he's doing here is trying to get ahead of something. He recently came out telling everybody. Now we had a discussion about Joey Crack. You mentioned him, his crack going on about a couple of pods ago.
Yeah.
But then he revealed that before this, he revealed that the crack came from him just being fat and girls calling out the crack of his ass. And then it kind of stuck with him because, well, he's just Joey Crack. And I think that's when I first heard that, I laughed because it was like, oh man, he got us. He thought, he was peddling that cane, that rock. But actuality, it was just his overweightness that he was actually shouting himself out on every song. But then this came out. And it seems a little covering up the tracks type of talk, in the sense where also in this case, Young Thug lawyer came out and said that Thug stands for truly humble under God or something.
God, yeah.
Brilliant. It's not brilliant, but brilliant, right? If you want to make a defense, go ahead and just shoot your shot. So I'm not saying that Fat Joe was some big kingpin that he actually claimed that he was in his songs. I believe he was lying in most of that, but I feel like it was embellishment. So I feel as though he may have had connections with some real Boricuas or whatever you say in New York, because these guys, these rappers, they like to be attached to the guys who are actually doing the stuff, pulling from that lifestyle, if you will. And he may have in his histories stuff that could get him indicted, per se. Now, this is my galaxy brain. I feel like he's trying to get ahead of the curve by doing his own brand of truly humble unto God by saying, "Oh, Joey Crack, no, that was talking about the crack of my ass because I'm so fat." And then here going, man, I lied in 95% of my rhymes. So me talking about pedaling on the block and doing all this other stuff, I was just talking jibber jabber rap lyrics. I wasn't being serious, guys. So I feel like part of this is him trying to get ahead of the curve, if you will, just in case there could be some reasons that he could get indicted down the line. I feel as though that's where this is coming from, because all of this is weak to me. So the explanation of crack is weak to me, and this explanation that I lied in 95% of my rhymes. So outside of him just being a big fat liar, I think that he might be trying to cover some tracks here. I could be very much wrong. So those are my thoughts 1 and 2. So what are your thoughts on this situation covering Mr. Fat Ass and him lying in 95% of his rhymes?
Yeah, like you, I thought that it was interesting that his number was so high, because obviously there's no way for you to accurately know what percentage it is. You literally have to go and count. How many songs has Fat Joe done? He would have to count how many songs have I been on, and he would literally have to just sort of do simple math to figure out what percentage of all of the songs I've been on have I been not truthful. So, but the fact that he said straight from the hip 95% speaks to how sure he is that it's something that he does a lot. And so that did strike me as interesting, the fact that he said 95%. I don't know about all. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I know I'm not going to go that far, but what I will say is I think he's trying to cover up for Thug, because these rappers try to stick together. Like, one thing that these people try to do is they do try to come to one another's defense and suggest that any circumstance that they find themselves in that is adverse is is them being under siege. They are being placed under the weight of unfair odds, and they are being victimized. And so we can't let one of our guys go down. We can't let one of our guys be victimized without a fight. So we're going to come out swinging, and I'm going to come to his defense in my own way by showing up on this show and sort of painting the scene that you cannot use something as evidence if the nature of the evidence that you are attempting to use is in fact a fallacy, not true. And then he tries to make equivalencies in other areas of entertainment and art, like movies and actors and stuff like that. And that to me is the biggest issue that I have with this conversation, because I feel like you guys, and by you guys I mean Fat Joe and people in the hip hop music industry, for generations, these individuals have done a very effective job of selling the public on the idea that the music is an extension of these people's reality. Like, that's the way the music has been sold to us.
Exactly.
So the difference between music and movies is the delineation between reality and fiction is clear, and it's sold as such in movies. No one is going to misunderstand Arnold Schwarzenegger for being Dutch, his character in Predator. Like, no one is going to believe that Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to go out here with his M16 looking to kill an alien with green blood. Like, there's no stretch of imagination historically that you can count on when it comes to movies to have people thinking that this could possibly be real life. The closest that you'll get to that is if it's a movie being made about something that actually happened, right? So like biographies or some nonfiction stories, something about something that actually happened, but it's been embellished for entertainment. It's been satirized to a certain degree, but nevertheless, it's about something that actually took place. That's pretty much as close as you're going to get. But when you're watching a fiction movie, when you're reading a fiction book, cinema historically, unless it's a documentary or unless it's nonfiction, has been sold to the public as this is purely for entertainment purposes. There is no aspect of this that is truly stoked in any sort of reality other than the imagination of the writers and the directors and the people who were involved. But rap music in particular for decades has been sold to the public as an extension of the reality of the individuals who are making the music.
Correct.
So the reason why to me that is a false equivalency is because it has been movies have been effectively billed to the public truly is fakery, entertainment. These guys aren't really on a helicopter shooting Gatling guns. We're not shooting aliens. We're not actually out here doing this stuff that we see in these movies. We're not. Like, Thanos isn't really going to show up and snap his fingers and kill half the universe. It's not going to happen. It's not going to newsflash, guys. It's not really going to happen. Not that anyone needs to be told that, because the extension of belief is inherent when you go and do and have a movie going experience. For the majority of us who listen to this music out here, well, I don't know about majority, but for a great deal of the people who listen to this music, that extension of disbelief doesn't exist. We believe that this is an extension of the reality of the people who are making this stuff. And it's not our fault that we believe that. It's been intentionally sold to us that way.
Right.
So the reason why prosecutors and people in the law feel as though they are emboldened to use rap lyrics as evidence, as erroneous as you think the concept of it is, it's because this stuff has been sold to the general population as an extension of reality. Now, I, on this channel, and even not on this channel, for a good portion of my life, once I became self-aware, I have been screaming to the mountaintops that rap in particular needs to be gleaned as entertainment. When you put your headphones on or when you listen to your favorite rapper, you need to suspend belief. There needs to be a suspension of belief in the exact same way that you suspend belief when you go to watch a fiction movie. When you go to watch that movie with them people trying to kill the dinosaurs or trying to kill the huge shark, or you go and you watch that movie about bank robbers and having shootouts with automatic rifles with cops in the streets, and you have that suspension of belief because you know you're watching a movie, you need to carry that same sensibility with you when you listen to this music. But a lot of us don't do that. We don't have that gear to be able to suspend that belief because the business of the music industry has conditioned a huge portion of our population to believe that this is real. This is real. So Fat Joe can get on CNN all he wants and plead his case that he's lied in 95% of his music. I guarantee you that when Fat Joe was in his heyday and he was doing the actual lying, his intent was for you to believe him.
Absolutely.
That was his intent. So now that he's pushing 50 and he's not really active as a rapper anymore, and he's perhaps older and wiser and more enlightened, sure, he can be a mouthpiece to the idea that he's 95% of the time lied in his music. But when he was Joey Crack, as you say, doing Terror Squad and Lean Back and making all of that stuff in his heyday, his intent was for you to believe that stuff.
Yep.
When these rappers are doing this, whether they're lying or not, and I, like you, believe that the vast majority of the time they are lying, their intent is for you to believe them. So what are we talking about here? So this is chickens coming home to roost. You reap what you sow, so on and so forth, one cliche after the next. Is he lying in his music? Perhaps, but you dug your own grave. And the more that you get complicit with the ecosystem around the business of this rap, and you're peddling this stuff to a population, selling them on the idea, marketing to them upon the basis that this is reality. Therefore, you don't need to suspend belief because, hey, I'm rapping about what I am. This isn't my art. This is who I am. I just happen to be doing it on a record. Well, this is a part of what you get as a result. So if we want some of this stuff to be a little better, if we want to see individuals like Young Thug not get bammed up the way he's gotten bammed up, perhaps we need to do a better job of not being slaves to this industry and allowing them to take over and sell us on this idea that it's in fact an extension of reality. But that won't happen because there's far too much money to be made in the belief that this is reality, both for the music industry and for the artists collectively. So this is a result of that dynamic, and it has been playing out at this point for several decades, definitely since the 80s, and it really went on steroids in the 90s. And these guys were a part of what was the result of those initial stages of that particular form of an operation. So nowadays, I think because of the internet, because of social media, and because of the fact that we have more opportunities to see these people when they are being civilians and they're not putting on their mask when they're making their music, there's more opportunities for people to understand that. But I do get the sense that there's a very sizable portion of the population that still looks at this music not as art and entertainment, but as an extension of reality for the people who are making it. And that's where it gets a little dicey.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I mean, he would have went on any radio show if he didn't already and vouched about how real of a N-word that he is, and that he actually bought this life, and he actually out here leaning back, whatever the hell that means. Now, the last part of his argument where he was like, hey, use real evidence. Now that I can dig that. Now, if this guy's out here actually a kingpin, calling shots, sending text messages, getting people assassinated, like, you should be able to find enough conclusive evidence and not find a song. Like, you should be able to do that, especially if you're indicted, especially if you got snitches on record. So I don't understand the importance. I don't see how the lyrics can be the slam dunk. Now, if they want to use that evidence to paint a picture of him, then that's one thing. But him saying that, hey, use real evidence, now that I agree with. Use real evidence in the court of law. If you want to get somebody hemmed up for being some type of kingpin, yeah, find kingpin stuff. You should be able to find that. So that part I do agree with. But when it comes to Fat Joe and, you know, him as a caricature, because that's what he basically told us now. Now, you talk about minstrel shows. Well, here we go. All right. So if you're lying in 95% of your rhymes throughout your entire career, then you, sir, are a phony. Now, I've heard people also talk on this point too before, like, oh, you know, comparing it to Marlon Brando and all these other people, all these gangsters and stuff in movies. I heard Lil Turk, you know, Lil Turk from the Hot Boys, and he was on some type of morning show with D1 after his whole little spat with Rick Ross and them. And he brought up the same argument of, it's like movies. We trying to tell a story like it's a movie. And it's just like, but you yourself will come off back in those days. So your song is like a movie. And then once you leave the filming, you know, which is your recording, once you leave your filming, so you're still going to act like the bad cop in Training Day if you're Denzel Washington? Is that what you're going to do? So you're going to go to the convenience store, or you're going to go to your next interview when you're doing a whole nother movie and continue the same, oh, you know, Jake, you know, you're going to keep that up. They don't keep that up. This whole persona that these dudes keep up suggests that they are living their lyrics. And, you know, anytime there's a beef between them and another rapper, they want to unmute and let us know how gangster, how hood, how dangerous they are, how much they're willing to go to jail to stand on their principles about this stuff. But then you want to turn around once the law gets involved and tell me that you're lying in 90% of your rhymes. Which one is it, champ? And so the thing is that once there are people that are, you know, that can suspend their disbelief and just go, all right, well, that's just music. All right, well, what about the young people? The thing that got my mind warped when I was a young person was I couldn't tell the difference. I didn't know what was going on. And so now when these kids listen to NBA Youngboy, they really out here, you know, really trying to bang for real, you know, and tell that kid that NBA Youngboy is lying, you know. But when NBA Youngboy 20 years from now wants to say, I lied in 95% of my rhymes, yeah, tell that to the guy that's doing life in prison.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear this garbage, Joey Crack. All right. I mean, I'm glad he admitted it, you know, but at the same time, I mean, you're at least over here, you're preaching to the choir, bro. I already knew you was lying. But for you to sit here and, like you said, bro, just cape for your fellow rapper And that's the part about this is like, okay, why cape for Thug? Like, who cares? But you know, they're in this fraternity together, and I think he's caping for the fraternity of all the rappers who embellish their rhymes. But like I said, because Jeezy, whether you know people, you know, Jeezy was involved with BMF. He wasn't doing the stuff though. That's why when Big Meech went in, you know, Jeezy didn't. And I think a lot of these rappers, like I said, they get close enough to the lifestyle because there's some weird thing they got going on. They get close enough to that lifestyle where they could get roped up in some goofy stuff later down the line. And I think that that's kind of low key his angle here, but I think more or less the fraternity of taking up for other rappers type of thing, as you mentioned. But yeah, I don't care for this excuse, especially as they double down once the microphone's cut off. Now, if they clearly showed me that they were making that stuff up on wax, then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's just a song. That's just a fairy tale. You know, clearly outside of these walls, you know, this guy's a normal human being just like me. But once the persona goes, interviews, anything else, you know, he thugging. But when you near your 50s, you telling people you ain't thugging no more, I don't want to hear it, bro. So yeah, this is a message 30 years too late if you've been lying for 30 years, Fat Joe. So on one hand, I want to commend him for being honest. But on the other hand, it's, you know, stick it where the sun don't shine, because I don't want to hear this message so late down the line. I mean, I can talk about this for an hour, but I'll cut it off here, man. And just say that, yeah. And just say that, hey, man, Young Thug, he did a lot of talking on wax, man. He did a lot of stuff that was eerily similar to the stuff that he got caught up in, which is why I always bring him up and other guys that getting caught up in RICO cases lately that are these rappers that listen to Fat Joe and really tried to take that stuff off screen and put it in real life. I think Young Thug is one of those people that took it off screen and did it in real life. And so for him to try to cape for a different generation, you're missing the boat there. I'm not going to call Young Thug guilty, but you know, he's got a wild circumstance of evidence mounted against him. So, you know, truly humble under God. Be blessed, bro.
Method acting is what you were trying to think of. It's called method acting, when actors who are really trying to just stay in character, even when the camera isn't rolling, they'll go, and if you spot them on the street somewhere or they in a grocery store or a restaurant, it's like, why is this person acting like this? Like they're acting like the character that they playing in the movie. It's weird and goofy though, but some of them do it. But even then, there's still a suspension of belief, because like I said before, one thing that cinema has done that rap music specifically has not, because other forms of music I would also classify as, you pretty much know where that line of demarcation is between what's real and what's fake.
Right.
But the difference between movies, cinema, books, even TV, and rap music is rap music was sold to several generations as an extension of reality. Whereas movies have always been marketed to the population as entertainment.
Right.
And I think that there is an element of hypocrisy, and maybe it's a slight element, maybe it's a major one, depending on your perspective. But for me, there's some hypocrisy present here, because I believe that in Fat Joe's heyday, his intent, like I said, was for you to believe that he was telling the truth.
Yep.
So if when you were doing your thing, your intent was for people to believe that you are telling the truth, and in retrospect, it might be a bit noble for you to talk about how you've been lying this whole time. But hey, man, the stage has already been set. You were doing this thing and then portraying yourself to be this individual, even when you weren't rapping.
Right.
Whether it was interviews, whether it was movies you were featured in, whether it was walking down the street. Nowadays, these guys definitely make sure that they seem gangster whenever they going on their social media rants. Meek Mill. So at the end of the day, they're still perpetuating a lot of the things that can end up coming to cost you in the long run. And when they start to cost you in the long run, you cannot in hindsight then talk about how you've been lying this whole time. It's kind of like, bro, it's a little too late for that. So I hear what you're saying, but for a lot of these guys, their intention is to have you believe them, and that's why I can't give this a pass. Although I will agree with you, I do think it needs to be hard evidence and not musical lyrics. Any reasonable person can agree with that. That's a very reasonable take. But at the end of the day, I can't let you slide on this explanation because this stuff has been sold to us as reality, and that has a detrimental effect that you have to take accountability for. And that's it, period. End of story.
100. Agreed.
Good luck, Thugger.
Yeah, good luck, Thugger. Yeah, good luck, cracker your ass, Fat Joe. I would have never said that. I would have came up with something else.
I mean, he did have a huge crack in his ass.
Apparently. Enough to be called crack. That's crazy.